So this is just for the people as well, that when I did my video on when you can't see at a junction, a lot of people moaned that my hedge was untrimmed. So I have trimmed the hedge. I've actually, as you can see, I've taken it right down from what it was before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself in the position. I open my windows here because I can't see. And that's simply the point I was trying to make to people. And I'm going to stop where I was before, so I'm going to compare the two clips. Now, I've taken that hedge right down. I can't take it any more with like the chain. I need a chainsaw. I don't have one. So I've done my best. And as you can see, it makes absolutely no difference to my view whatsoever. So I'll now show you. That's currently my view. That way and that way. So sometimes, some people on YouTube, you actually don't know better when you're sat behind a screen. I still can't see the road. So I've got my window down, peeping and creeping. And I only see the road now. I'm almost across, because it's on a bend. I can't see the road until I'm out. So trimming a hedge doesn't make a blind bit of difference. But of course, people behind the screen know better. Anyway, what we're actually talking about today is driving instructor's pet hate number 5, which is not people sat behind a screen. It's actually people that do this. Now, mate, honestly, mirrors. So it's people that overtake and then cut back in way too early. It's again, people will say, oh, there's nothing wrong with this. That's because you don't understand how a dash cam wide view camera works. That's extremely close to me that person is moving back in at. One of the main reasons people tend to do this is they use the left mirror to decide when to move back in. And again, it's very poor use of your mirrors. It's not understanding your mirrors properly that causes this sort of thing. Now, I learned back in 2004, I had a Vauxhall Astra, I think I learned in. And my instructor was called Barry from BSM. Now, Barry taught me in the old-fashioned ways of learning to drive, in terms of he told me everything, he did all my thinking for me. So I don't really remember anything that Barry taught me, and that's no disrespect to Barry. He was a good instructor, but the methods of teaching just weren't really effective back then. I do remember one bit of advice that Barry gave me. It's the only thing I actually remember him telling me, but it was so effective, and I use it to this day, and I really like it because it keeps that incident from happening. It's a very basic thing. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you now. So I've got a vehicle in front of me that has a trailer, so that's legal. Speed limit is, of course, 60 miles per hour. Let's see if they're doing that. I should be able to overtake if they are. All my planning is done in the center mirror, and the right mirror is just to check there's nothing close to me. Now, what old Barry, bless him, from BSM taught me is once I pass this vehicle, I should wait until I can see the headlights of that vehicle in my center mirror, and then I can check the left mirror now and move back in. And that combination keeps me very safe. But I also, if you see, by the time I'm back in, I've given a lovely distance to that vehicle with the trailer. That is so simple. Find the headlights of what you've overtaken in the center mirror, then check left, move back in. That avoids what we saw earlier with people moving back in too early. La 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 la. I don't use the left mirror to decide when to change lanes. Same as I don't use my right mirror to decide when to change lanes. All of that is done in the center mirror. And the left and right mirror just make sure that no one is close to me. I should not be planning in those side mirrors because they're smaller, they're wider, and they give me a much distorted view of the traffic behind, and I can't work out how close that traffic is. I do refresher lessons with full license holders, and genuinely it staggers me that almost all of the refresher lessons I've done with people, they haven't known that. They've been doing all of the planning in the left and right mirrors. No wonder they're pulling out in front of people. And it may not always be the reason for things like this, but you look at me traveling along the A11 with my learner, and there's a car in a parking bay and they pull out in front of us. And I can almost guarantee, I was watching this lady's face, it was like that, just in the right mirror. She's doing all the planning of whether I'm coming along in the right hand mirror and completely misjudges how fast I'm coming along. It's really dangerous. Your center mirror is where you should be doing almost everything. And no Kia Picantos, so we're all good. Now I understand that if you have, and I have to say this because what I've learned within a year of being on YouTube is anything you say can be taken by someone and they either just don't like you or they don't like what you're saying, or they just disagree or they misunderstand what you're saying. So I have to be very clear. When I did my video I talked about earlier where I was talking about opening the windows because I can't see out my driveway, I had so many people, like I said, commenting about the state of the hedge, and it makes no difference to the emerge whatsoever. But I actually had one person say, well, that wouldn't work for deaf people, would it? Funnily enough, when I did that video, I wasn't actually intending that deaf people start opening the windows and listening for traffic. But because I didn't say that, of course, yes, you're absolutely right. Deaf people, it won't work. So what I'm going to make sure is I'm going to overtake this lorry. I'm going to use my top tip, but I'm also going to throw in the things that, of course, people are going to comment about because I haven't said them. So, of course, I'm going to go past it and I'm going to hold my position in the right-hand lane until I can see the headlights in the center mirror. Now, I do have to point out at this point, if you are blind, you will not be able to see the headlights in the center mirror. I also have to point out, if you're a van driver, you won't have a center mirror. Let's check the left mirror, and even in that mirror, if I'm aware it shows me a smaller picture, I can now ascertain that it is safe to move back in. I'm sufficiently far from the HGV. HGV drivers hate you moving back in on them too early. I used to do a lot of HGV driving in the military, and these guys, like this guy behind me, if he's loaded, he can be 40 tons plus. So he doesn't want me going into his area that he needs to brake in if something happens. So follow that simple tip. Remember, if you are blind, it won't work for you. And if you don't have a center mirror, you need to spend longer in your side mirrors planning. It is no excuse being in a vehicle that doesn't have a center mirror. The biggest problem, someone said this on a video a long time ago, and it was a really good point. Biggest problem about vans in our country is that we're getting more and more of them, and you don't need any additional qualifications to drive them. So you get some people that even in a car don't understand that the center mirror shows them a better picture, and they do all their planning in the side mirrors, and that's why their planning is so poor. And then you put them in a van and they've had to take no additional training, and they've now lost a massive mirror that actually helps them to see things. And they are now not aware enough in their side mirrors. When I drive a van, I am in them side mirrors constantly because I want to know if something's gone directly behind me. I'm not going to see it. So it is not an excuse to be a van driver and do poor lane changes, because you can still tell. You just have to be aware that in the side mirrors, things are going to seem further away, and it's going to take you longer to tell how quickly they're coming up behind you. Like I said, no excuses. That's driving instructors pet hate number 5, is people that move in too early. Very simple fix to it, so there's no real excuse. But if you didn't know that, hopefully start using it, and you should find that maybe you get less beeps of the horn. Oh, hold me in and don't let go.